home chat.
Thank
All
you.
this, right? Thank you. So 45 minutes of sales pitch, right? I don't understand how the stuff on your side, though. It's like a different world for me. I had a look at some of the books at the back, and I must say, they're not pictures in any of the books. Right? So this presentation is going to be more about pictures because this is what we do. You know, we make the data look sexy at our level. And of course, people that probably sign the checks and so on are the ones looking at it at that level. So of course, it's important that they understand the value of data and see that value right in front of them. And of course, I need to change my view. So you experience your 15 minutes of traffic during this afternoon. But it's usually when I come and stuff empty on the same day. Put the driver was complaining that it's the new train that's going as you can't turn anymore. You need some data to prove it. Just prove it. Some visuals to lobby someone to change it. Alright, so we're going to spend next, 40 minutes or so having a bit of a chat. Let's throw some ideas around really, and hopefully we're going to have a conversation about it. See if you agree with some of these, if you disagree. Now, I'm sure that most of you in the room do kind of out of the data. Right? So I'm preaching to the converted a little bit, but of course you have to deal with others back in the office that are not as much in love with data and stats and all these things, and we need to somehow bring them on this journey as well. This shouldn't just be something that very few selected people should enjoy, right? Everyone should participate in this. So when you think about it, when you look at this picture, since we're talking about data, what's the thing that comes to mind as a first thing? Right? Data is the new oil, right? Coined in 2006 by a UK mathematician, because he took this idea of data oil, the whole kind of raw, and we need to do lots of things to it. I think it's all right. I think there's a problem with this comparison here, and I'll tell you why. Because when you think about oil, we know exactly what to do with it out most of the time. We know how to get it out, how to transport it, refine it. We know exactly how to then refine it into fuels and plastics and so on. We know exactly how to deliver that valuable resource to the supermarkets, to the petrol stations and so on. It is such a well-understood process. Data? Nothing. Right? First, we don't even know to find it. And when we find it, then we just get all excited about how much you've got. Everyone is just putting out the new number of petabytes every week, basically. In fact, maybe you're measuring the wrong thing. You shouldn't really measure how much. What do you do with this stuff? Once we get it out there, and put it, store it somewhere, a lot of the time we don't know what to do with it, and we just keep it there until we figure out what to do with it. Right? And then when we do decide to use it, we have to clean it and transform it and so on, and we start analyzing it. And in many cases, there's nothing there. Right? You might analyze it, like, there's nothing interesting. And then we have to experiment again and start messing around with it. And then when we do find something, then we have to communicate this to the rest. There's scientists in the room, right? You have to now dumb it down enough so that people that are not in this space will actually understand the value of this. And that's now the whole storytelling and just showing people numbers and even charts doesn't really get them the buy-in. We need to tell the story behind the numbers. We need to get them kind of emotionally attached to say why this is important. So it's very, very different. And I think maybe because of this comparison, people thought, we're just going to create this boom, 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 and magic will come at the other end. All these insights will start flowing out in real time. It doesn't kind of work that way. But, and one other point I should mention, everyone talks about how data is this really important, valuable asset. The last time I checked, it wasn't on the balance sheet, right? Because the accountants haven't figured out how much value this stuff has. It's still early days. One day we'll probably get to the top. We'll figure this out with better. But the will is there. When you ask companies out there around this concept of using data for decision making, using data driven and so on, everyone's right? 98.6% said yes, 1.4% not quite sure. You can understand the question or surrounding the error. But of course, everyone is involved. And you know, I mean, you can open any annual report, any organization out there, and there'll be data, analytics, all of those stuff. So that's good news, right? The bad news, I think, is that many organizations think, oh, that's it, we're there already. We've been doing this for years now, you know? Data is like the thing that we value and use it all the time. And you know, we did some surveys recently within our customer base, and we found that companies that were relatively advanced in their sort of journey are the ones that were marking themselves down because they knew how much they didn't know. It's those companies that are at the early stage, and you ask them the same question, they're marking themselves up, no, we're doing great. Because they have no idea what is still ahead of them, right? So, you know, it's that kind of challenge. So, you know, when we talk to some of these companies, they say, oh, we've got reports. You know, we've got tons of these. In fact, there's hundreds of them around. And we deliver them to people, as many people as we've got email addresses, pretty much. You know, and of course, we are data-driven. They've got all the data they need to make decisions. It's not quite what we mean by data culture and data-driven organizations, right? Because this is just a data dump. It's just select stuff on tables and you figure out something useful. So it's not quite what it is. So many others would say, well, we visualize our data. Now we know visualizing data makes a lot of sense. Our brains are wired up in that way. So we can see patterns and understand more complex things inside in your data when you look into tables of numbers. So many say, well, visualize data, so clearly we are on this journey already almost there. So instead of doing that, accountants do this, and there's nothing wrong with this, but it's not a good way of presenting information if you want to find some insights on it. This is more of a so we do this kind of stuff, which of course, this is still a financial statement, income statement here, and it's a visual kind of view of it. So the numbers are still there, but then we might add some more context by using colors. So you're looking at certain things because we'll point you in the direction where you think it's something important for you to look at. We would potentially have some little goals or targets, and you can see how far you are from those targets and some historical views. So this is great. Right? This is actually great visualization. But its purpose is really there to simply help you monitor some numbers. And so, well, if I keep tracking this and I keep doing this, whatever I'm doing, and if that number keeps tracking right at the end, I'm going to need some goal. And that's, of course, useful. We need to do this. But my question to you is there anything here that will help you to innovate? Is there anything here that will make you do things differently? You know, maybe find new business models in here, opportunities, or something in it that you wouldn't know before? And the answer is no. There's nothing here. And in many, many organizations, this is the end. We've done the dashboard, that is the end of the story. Let's get another dashboard. For us, this is the beginning, right? Because this doesn't tell a story. It doesn't explain these numbers. And it doesn't tell us what's driving those numbers and how we can improve them, how we can change it. So the idea is that this should be the starting point, and then we should be able to go deeper and ask further questions. And of course, the only people that can do this kind of stuff are the business people, the ones that understand the data. In the same way that you go and you do your own Google search at home, right? You don't go and ask someone else to do it for you because no one else knows what questions you want to ask. And generally, you ask the first question, is not quite right, the second, third, and only by then you start getting results that you need. Right? So we need to expand on this idea. So again, when we ask many of these companies to say, well, so what's the big challenge here for you? And I am sure, I don't doubt that you can match these up pretty quickly. Yeah. Technology is the least important. Right? It really doesn't matter so much because it's going to improve whether you like it or not. You know, there's a new version of Tableau that came out last week, that new iPhone, new Samsung phone, new TV, you name it. You're just going to march on whether you like it or not. It's up to you to either jump on the bandwagon or not. The problem is people, of course. right? Because we're the stubborn ones, we're the ones that just want to change, do things differently, explore new ideas as much as we should. And of course, process is usually linked to people, so that's 8% is the challenge. So this talk, of course, is all going to be about people, even though we sell software and create technology. And this is the main problem, right? To summarize this entire thing so far, it's we sell it all the time. And we're still in business, or we're still doing okay, and why should we change? Just do what we did last week, or do what we did the year before, and so on. And there are many examples of industries that kind of fall into this, and here's an example of a taxi. Well, I had a story of taxi today, I don't know, 20 minutes ago. You're sitting at a taxi rank, really the challenge here is that it is a strategy of hope, right? I don't know if someone's going to jump in this cab in a minute, or 5, or 10, or an hour, I don't know. I'm hoping. Or I'd say, well, maybe I should go to the airport because I know it's busy at this time of day. Maybe I should go to other part of town because there's something going on there. So all these decisions are based on something that worked before, some gut feel and so on. And of course, Uber and others come along and change this whole model. And not so much about the app, right? This is just the front piece. The taxis have already been in it. So it's not about booking, it's not about knowing how long Uber will take to get there, and that's just to distract you so that 5 minutes doesn't feel like 5 minutes, right? More than anything else. It is what's going on behind the scenes. Is the data that is being used to know where there will be demand, based on real-time data, based on historical data, and all of this magic is going on. And what's really interesting with some of these companies is that they never satisfy with the data they have, because they would have analyzed their data to death. They understand as much as they could out of the data they have, so they keep getting or asking for new data, orchestrate new data, so they can keep improving and innovating. And that obviously only comes from people that know the business. Yeah. So, what is this data culture stuff anyway? It's a buzzword floating around, written about it, but everyone probably has a different interpretation of it. So, see if I can create some kind of definition. So firstly, it's not about technology, right? We're going to take that off. It is sort of a mindset, it's a way of being as a company, but it's something that has to span the entire organization. Step one. This is not a function that lives in part of the organization where the data groups live and so on. This is something that everyone needs to be part of, including all the way through. So every organization, every team member, and it doesn't matter what they do. They could be in sales, they could be in marketing, or engineering, HR, you name it, right? They could be doing anything. And all we're saying here is that we want for them to do their job better because they've got data everything. We're not going to replace them, we're not going to change. The decisions won't just be magically made. This whole, in fact, the whole phrase, data-driven. Like it, right? There's nothing data-driven. It's still human-driven, right? The data is just a supporting element. But in many cases, data is just not available, or too hard to access, or whatever, and they're not using it. So it needs to be available at your fingertips. It needs to be really easy and accessible. And then they can do some really interesting things with their knowledge, their experience, and the data. So I found this quote a little while back, and I thought this really sums this up, right? As you are sitting in meetings, as you're having conversations with others, most of these are about solving problems, coming up with ideas. And we should be able to bring data into all these conversations. It's a great idea, but do you have some data to prove it, to justify it, or disprove it? And it shouldn't be like, no, I can't even consider it. Everyone should be able to ask that kind of question. And there might be cases where there is no data. And that would be a good opportunity to go and say, well, that's the kind of data we need to find. How do we find it? Well, we can orchestrate things automatically, or we run servers, or whatever we need. How do we bring that data so we can answer these questions? I think it's key. Currently, Very few people can do this. Either they do it themselves or they know others that can kind of do it for them. Majority will do it. Yeah? And I'm not nothing wrong with Excel. Excel is a great tool. It's not a great tool for making sense of your data. Yeah? So the challenge here, like even if you didn't have Excel, you might be better off because you wouldn't be wasting a lot of time trying to figure something out which will just take way too long. But of course, many people out there simply say, this is just too hard. I'm just going to go with my decisions that I've made yesterday. So. All right, so I'm going to now split this into 3 pieces that I think kind of make up, and there are many others already, and this is where you guys might challenge me on some of these things. But I think are important in order to create this data culture in the organization. So the first one, you'll start right at the data, right? And this whole concept of broad access to data. If that idea doesn't exist in an organization, this whole concept is just not going. If it's all locked up in little silos and there's no trust in people having access to it, it will be a problem. So it's all about sharing, yes? So the question, of course, comes up, well, how much do we share? There's privacy, there's security, there's all these other things that we need to worry about, the kind of stuff you guys agree already. So I've got a little proposition here for you and tell me what you think. What if we just, as an idea, say, well, how about we share as much as is legally possible, right? So clearly I won't be looking at salary information, I won't be looking at customer credit cards probably, because that would be an illegal thing to do. But there's so much other data that we could be looking at, as long as we understand what those boundaries are. So I'll give you an example. I mean, I work for Tableau is a public company, but Salesforce now. Yeah, they used to. It didn't roll off the tongue as much as Tableau. So actually, I don't know how it's going to do with Salesforce, to be honest. But with Tableau, because we were relatively small, I mean, I've been Tableau for 7 years. When I started, there was only 600 of us. When we sold ourselves, it was 4,000 people. Right? But from the beginning, there was a lot of transparency in the company. Like even today, I could log in, I could see every sale, I can see exactly how we're tracking, all the data is up. But because we're a public company, clearly we can't talk about it. Yeah? It's lock me up. But everybody understands it. So the data is there for you to look at, to analyze, to do whatever you want with it. But you know the responsibility that you're not allowed to talk to anybody other than your team members or people within the company. So this is the kind of concept, yeah? And I don't think it's that hard. So the question shouldn't be, why should I give you this data? The question should be, why shouldn't I give you this data? I don't know. Government's really hard to persuade. So it's all about trust. And I think the surprising, no, it's not really a surprising thing, but the more you trust people, the more there will be ownership of the things that they do and their responsibility and so on. This kind of goes hand in hand. They don't feel like they're being watched. They don't feel like they're just being given the things that they, that they think that they should have. The more trust is better, I think. And Autobahn is a great example of that kind of trust. No speed limits on the roads. There's just a trust that, look, you go as fast as you're comfortable driving. They overtake on the left, stay on the right, and people don't wipe each other out more than other countries, right? So and this isn't really a set of policies almost. It's just the way we operate, the way we think about things. Of course, we can't talk about data without talking about governance. It's a bit of a dirty word, of course. And I think traditionally it's a dirty word because I blame the traditional BI vendors. They made it sound that way. Because when you think about governance, a lot of people think, oh, just lock everything up and then trickle feed people what we think they need. We want to flip this on its head, and instead of restriction, it should be there to enable people in a controlled way to get to the data that they need. Right? And like I was saying earlier, the question should be, why shouldn't I give you this data? If there is a reason, great. In many cases, we hide behind this ahead of time. The example I was going to show you, I don't have it now, but those hire bikes was a perfect example of that, where people were throwing them in rivers and up trees and all the fun stuff that they were doing with hire bikes. And you thought, well, maybe the governance was just a little bit too low, or there was a little bit too much flexibility. The other bikes where you have to kind of lock them in, well, it's still as flexible in terms of going from any point A to any point B, but you couldn't just drop it off outside your front door, right? You had to go and walk 100 meters to drop it off in a station or something. So, we need to find what that line is around governance so it's not restrictive. Because we know, like the traditional BI world, that was the problem. Because what do people do? Let's export everything to Excel, right? And then we're going to do real work over there and blend it with everything else. But that report, as much as it was restrictive, it still didn't really forbid people from doing bad things. The second point, and this is probably one I always bring up in most of my presentations, is around this inquisitive culture, or this curiosity and sort of critical thinking. Now, I know it sounds a little fluffy, right? Soft. It's like, how the hell does that really matter in companies that are there to, make a profit, be a private company, or have real deliverables as a government agency and so on. We don't have time for these fluffy things. Well, it turns out that a lot of that really fuels business innovation. And again, if you go and look at any annual report, it is plastered with the word innovation everywhere, right? And all the governments also want to innovate. Some prime ministers innovate more than others, but we won't go there today. So if we turn this to the fact that there's actually there is something in there to drive your organization forward. There was a study done by Harvard Business Review of 3,000 people across many industries, and they asked them about this curiosity concept. And 24% of them said, yeah, well, I feel kind of curious at work. I bring my intellect and use it, and ask questions and so on. Not quite sure what happened to the 75%. They're just clocking in and clocking out, right? And not really bringing themselves to work, it seems. 70% say they face barriers to asking questions. Now, this could be cultural barriers, like, well, we don't have questions around here, or maybe technology barriers that we don't have access to data, or we don't have the right tools so we can ask questions of the data. So that could be true. But out of those 3,000 people, 92% said that those curious people are the ones that bring those new ideas to our organization. That's what drives us forward, right? So clearly we need to nurture this idea, because those people were the ones that will make you succeed, not the others. I'm going to show you a little demo. It is in Tableau, of course, but it isn't about Tableau. Today is not about Tableau. But I want to show you what that curiosity looks like. I know many of you live in a world of data, probably deep down, so you use tools like Python and R and so on, and that's all great. Majority of people out there, their eyes glaze over, right? They wouldn't be touching that. So we want those people to also bring that curiosity to the table and ask questions of the data in a way that will work for them. So here's an example, and if anyone who came to any of my other presentations has probably seen this before, but hopefully not too many. This is real data set from a few years ago now. It's the metadata of your mobile phone, right? Remember the government passed a law forcing companies to keep your metadata for up to 2 years and so on, right? So there's a guy from the ABC, he went to Telstra and said, I'd like to see my metadata. Just the same way as you can go to Facebook and say, show me what the hell you know about me, right? So I've never got a court, I think, to do this, but anyway, he got his metadata, published an article online, and then he put the data set there. So we got the data set here, I mean, he's going to play around with it. He took the data set down after 3 days because it was just freaking